I am Andrew Leduc,
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we get
So the point being is, good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen, and we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between.
here? Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome into Divots and Pivots. I forgot that was Bud's first time hearing that little thrown together intro through. So love that, watching his reaction backstage that whole time. But I am Andrew Leduc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard here, bringing you Divots and Pivots alongside Bud Copeland for Masters Hangover Week. Let's be honest, that's just what it is. I'm lucky to be standing right now. There will be no wine drunk from Mr. Sophistication himself tonight because I would fall asleep if I did. So, Budweiser it is. Bud, how are you on this beautiful Tuesday post-Masters?
Phenomenal. And that was great. I hadn't seen that before. I love that we have me dropping an F-bomb right there up front, just in case you want to know what kind of show you're getting into. No, we don't go blue early, not often, except I am going blue early tonight. And that's that Acorn Hill baby blue. I don't even know if that's what it's like, but Nate Wren, Acorn Hill, shouts to you. Thank you for the gear.
Yes.
TBFY15 for 15% off acornhillsco.com. He's going to be on the Weather Channel tomorrow morning, 8:40
big
a.m.
day for the company.
Big day for Nate and Acorn Hill. So,
yes.
But as we were saying just before the show, this is only the second time I've gotten to wear mine, because the first time I got it, I went outside to let my dog out right before taking my kid to school, and it was just a little damp outside, and she jumped up and just muddy paws right up on front of it. I mean, I would say that this color is as beautiful as anything, but it is just as delicate as white can be. So wear with caution and pride. No, it's wonderful. As you can hear, I lost my voice this weekend. I don't know if it was shouting at the TV for 10, 12 hours on Sunday, or it was the super dry air.
Or it was all the TikTok and Instagram videos you were posting about the Masters. I'll do it too.
Sergio scared me early. Day one, he was getting out there, and I did not want to see. I'm glad
it was
this
going to piss
Spaniard
me off so much. It was going to piss me off if Sergio was there at the end.
No, but the dry air dried me out. I couldn't talk for like 2 days, and so I'm on the rebound, and I feel great. You know what helps when your throat's feeling like this is a little, you know what I'm saying?
Little doctor's medicine there.
Yeah, medicinal purposes only, kids.
Another shout out for Acorn Hills. Working in a store today, out there surveying. Random guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, love the hat. That color's fantastic." And you know what? The color is what sold me too. Obviously the story sold me, because if you missed the episode where we had Nate on a couple weeks back, go take a listen to that, because it explains everything about Acorn Hills, the sustainability side of it, and just the story of Nate himself. But yeah, the color's great. Love it. Excited to see him on the Weather Channel tomorrow. Well, let's talk Masters. Let's get on.
I was about to say Pantone 342 is the Masters green. And if you've listened to the show before, then you know that. But this is a close second. I'm not going to lie. It's a close second. Okay, look, the numbers don't lie. And this was the biggest Masters Sunday in years. Yep. There was a different feel to it. I said it last week. I mean, I think I kind of thought Brooksy was going to win it. I wanted Brooksy to win it. I think it's pretty hilarious. I saw somebody saying Brooks ruined the Masters by just playing mediocre. They're like, all he needed to do was shoot even par, and this thing's interesting. This guy. And I'm like, but you know what's funny is it does open up for the conversation. We're just going to dive right into the Masters recap, and then we will get into Harbortown, because don't sleep on the RBC Heritage at Harbortown links. I mean, a couple of years ago, remind you, this was voted, I think, the second or first hardest course on the PGA Tour by the players themselves. Narrow fairways, it's all in the, narrow fairways, Pete Dye design, a little Jack Nicklaus sprinkled on top of there. And then, they go all through the woods, and then bam, you're right on the ocean when the nerves are hitting, and you got this wide fairway to tee off into, and then a narrow green. So it's going to be a fun week down there in Hilton Head. I already saw Victor Hovland was laughing about, in his little Norwegian smile, I was talking about, like, no, there's alligators, snakes, snapping turtles. there's all sorts of stuff in this water. You don't want to go in this water. And I'm just laughing my head off. Man, I grew
Yeah.
up down there, and that's all in the water, but that's what you do. You go in. So we will get to that, but
We will.
you can't be a sports fan, let alone a golf fan, without reflecting on this Masters and kind of thinking it was, I liked it. I mean, I know that there's people
Yeah.
out there who maybe think that the weather spoiled it. Honestly, it's kind of like the silver linings for me. When COVID hit and they had to postpone, immediately when they announced November, I'm like, it's football season. And sure enough, College game day goes down there. You have a November Masters, all that kind of stuff. So you got to find the silver linings. And for me, that meant 12 hours of coverage and like 11 hours of golf on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I listened to or watch every single minute of it. And it started off with a bittersweet tweet, but I mean, it was, for me, it does rank up there with one of my favorite Masters of all time. If Brooksy would have won it, I'd have been a little more happy just to see that stir in the pot in the full circle from full swing where he's talking about, I don't even know who won last year. He was second. That's not bad. This is one of the most elite fields in golf. So he still got it. And I think the whole Live PGA Tour, I think this might have bridged it in a weird way of, okay, when we're on neutral territory, may the best man win. And then everybody just go about doing your business.
The players seemed perfectly fine with each other. There was a ton of comments and tweets or news clipping, whatever you want to call it, out there about, guys on the range talking to each other fine. Like Cameron Smith pointed out that he wasn't sure how it was going to be for him out there. And then the second he gets up there on the range, everyone's, giving him high fives, shaking hands, the normal stuff. So nothing seemed to be different for the players. I think, like you said, this rose above golf itself. It always does. The Masters is in its own, stratosphere when it comes to what these guys do for a sport.
To me, it's the best. I mean, it's the tops. I know Gary Player ranked it last, and I think he's got some beef with the Masters. And it goes all the way back to when he took his green jacket home and they called him and he was like, you can come get it if you want, which I do love that. I love that move right there. That's pretty awesome. But it's the best for me. I used to go back and forth, and I'm in love with the U.S. Open. Sure. I really am, because of it's our country's open. It really is open, and Tin Cup, all of that. Obviously, my favorite tournament of all time is TPC, just for the familial reasons. But as far as elite golf, this is it. I mean, you look at the leaderboard, and it was nothing but names. Well, obviously the former champions there, but even those are names. Like when you see that Sandy Lyle shot 7 over, you're like, well, it makes sense. He's 150 years old. Like, this is his last Masters. He's going to shoot that.
Freddie Couples makes the cut.
Thank
you.
Like,
that's you're going to get it's the years that you get Bernhard Langer in the top 20 on at the end of 3 rounds. It's those years where history always seems to come to the forefront one way or another.
And I wonder if, and it's funny you mentioned Freddie, because I got romantic. I was thinking to myself, well, shit, maybe he can make a run at it. And even he admitted, he's like, I'm glad to show that I still got the game to go out there and play in these tournaments. He's like, but I'm not Victor Hovland, and he started naming these guys. He's like, I can't do that anymore, but there's a plaque at Augusta National dedicated to Jack Nicklaus once he kind of retired from, and it was funny because he played in more Masters after that as a champion, but it was kind of like they were dedicating it, and they left a section blank at the bottom because it was kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod to, you never know with this guy, and then he made a couple runs, or he made a run like a year or two later. And then, but I wonder if they filled that plaque in yet. I hope they never do. I hope that, because that's kind of part of the legend. This guy was that damn good. Although the ceremonial tee shot kind of had that Arnie feel to it. I don't know if that's just the production team putting the music in the right spots and making me cry. But,
well, they also did the whole from Jack's eye through Jack's eyes, where they follow him out of the clubhouse with his wife, with all this and that, and
he's getting his stretches in. Highlight for me was finding out that his grandkids call him Peepaw. That's his family nickname. I think that's great. My dad is Pops to the grandkids in our family, and I love that he's Peepaw.
My dad is Peppy.
Peppy,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, he was gonna be Papa. Oh no, sorry, he was gonna be Pepe,
Welcome to Divots and Pivots, a golf show about fantasy sports betting and family names.
Kids couldn't say Pepe, so it always was coming out Peppers. And we were like, "Oh, Peppers, that's cute. We'll roll with Peppers." And then it just turned into Pepe as a joke, and then it stuck as Pepe. So
my mom was Nancy, but my cousin couldn't say Aunt Nancy, and so she would say Cece, Aunt Cece, and so that's when when mom became a grandma, she was Cece. Anyway, back to the people competing. Let's just get right to it. Tiger.
Yep. No surprise that he withdrew after 3. He could not walk.
Man,
that was tough to watch at the end of that 3rd round. And I was saying to myself, I said, watching him, I was just like, there's no way he plays this final round. The weather is not kind of someone who's had the injuries he has, or the history of injuries he has. It's so, and you know what it was that sold it for me is not just watching him physically walk, but also watching his reaction to his shots. It was almost, I don't want to say he didn't care in that 3rd round, but it was because I don't think that's the case.
He was
at
in
all.
Survival mode.
But his face was very much like, let me get through these shots so I can be done.
Well, you saw the Jason Day comment earlier today or yesterday where he goes, at Southern Hills when he withdrew, it's because one of the screws popped through his skin. Like, this guy is, I mean, again, we talk about mob mentality sometimes, and he's there. So that did make me sad. What really made me sad was that earlier in the week when somebody said, have you ever thought that this might be your last? And he's like, yeah, I have. And then you see him go out like that. We'll see if he turns up at Oak Hill, or I think the PGA is at Oak Hill. We'll see if he turns up there. I don't know, man.
He might have to take a break all the way to the U.S. Open.
I think him and Will Zalatoris might just want to go become buddies for a little bit. So here's my question.
Willie ZG.
What was the biggest disappointment for you from this year's Masters?
It had to have been Rory. Like, how can it not be Rory missing the cut? And yet now, granted, I know he ended up only missing it by 1 stroke, but still, Rory was supposed to be the guy that all season has been getting thrown in our acceptingly thrown in our face. We've loved it. We've wanted him to be the guy all year, carrying the PGA flag, who can fight go up against anybody and handle it. And he just, this Augusta and him just.
In a weird way, Augusta kind of
in his head. It's in
a
his
weird
head.
way. I think Augusta made us move beyond this live PGA Tour thing and put it back into perspective of these guys are all just really good golfers. They're just choosing to play their stuff elsewhere. But
I still want to see Rory do better than he did, though.
I agree with you. I was actually trying to be contrarian and figure out something else that might be shocker, something else that might be the biggest disappointment. But it's so obvious. It's Rory. It's for me personally, it's disappointing that Brooksy didn't win because I would have finished in the money. But in my other league, which I'm slowly clawing my way back in the top 16. I told you, give me in a major season and I'll be able to get back up there. Still, though, no wins in the season. I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, if Rory had made the cut, I probably could have made a lot more money than what I lost this week. But that'll happen.
That's the disappointment for the weekend. If you're Phil Mickelson, I think you have to pay an assistant or something to make 365 cards.
Mm-hmm.
And on the front is your face. On the back is the thumbs up. On the inside of the left is a screenshot from Full Swing with the caption that says, "Fuck you, Phil."
Yep.
And then on the right side is your final round scorecard from this year's Masters.
And Rory not having one.
And you just and you have somebody drop that off by personal courier to him every day for the next year. I would volunteer for that. Actually, I don't know if I would, man.
So here's my question to you, because I'd say my other disappointment was honestly kind of the coverage, the TV coverage by CBS. And I will say the Masters app was fantastic, as it always is. But the Masters app is fantastic. That's where I watched all my coverage.
Me too. That's
the Masters app and ESPN Plus. I watched it all on those.
I did, and when I got on Sunday, I turned on Jim Nantz. Come on, don't be.
So, and that's what I did too.
Don't be blasphemous. Although they were running the CBS feed through the app, though. If you would just open the app and click main feed, it would be the CBS.
Were.
Yeah. But Colton Nost was my highlight of the weekend. I enjoyed. He was doing the featured groups. I really like me some Colton Nost. I wasn't disappointed in the coverage. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Like I
So
consumed it.
my question about the coverage to you though is,
Sure.
it felt like on Sunday, given the round that Phil was having, I feel like he wasn't getting much screen time at all, even though he was getting up to the set. Maybe that was just me and when I happened to be looking up and looking away. I don't know.
On the contrary, I actually was shocked. Not shocked. I actually took notice of the fact that they were cutting to him. I mean, he
because they were cutting to Brooks a lot. Brooks was all weekend. He was stealing the show. Yeah, I know, but he was like, that's what they did that right. To me, it must have just been the way I was watching, looking up, and looking down, that I felt like I wasn't seeing a ton of Phil, considering he was shooting what, 7 under, I think, in the end, whatever it was.
Yeah, but there were a lot of stories going on there. So they did cut to him coming down the back 9 because if he threw a couple of eagles in there, he would have been jumping up into the mix. But no, I thought, to the bigger, like when I said, like, I just don't care because I consumed it. I was able to find it wherever I was, whenever I was walking my in-laws' dogs on their
very easy to watch,
80-acre, farm. And I had it playing on my phone in my back pocket. Like in Sunday morning, Masters coverage at like 8:30 in the morning, cup of coffee, big farm.
That part was great about that part. CBS got right. They knew that, the final round was getting going, and they just took over and they started at 8:30, and I love that. Yeah. I love that.
I mean, you have to. Anything that's out of the ordinary, and that's what I mean by it's kind of fun every once in a while to have a Masters or have something tweaked or disrupted that either gives you like a Monday finish. John Rombo, though.
Yeah, John Rahm.
You can't not like him. Who hates John Rahm? I mean, in the whole thing where it was Seve's 40th, it was the 40th anniversary of Seve's win. It was also Seve's birthday. It was also the last time that it finished on this date was Sergio won in 2017. So,
it's just a lot of Spaniard connections.
Yeah. Good for Spain. And I loved seeing Jose Maria Olazabal. Actually, I don't know if that's how you say it. Sorry for the appropriation. Barcelona. I love seeing him kind of tear up and be that proud elder statesman. I was shocked to not see Sergio, but then again, I don't know what the personal relationship between John Rahm and Sergio is, so I don't want to just assume
Sergio's a piece of shit. I wasn't shocked.
I loved hearing from our guy Thigala, who he had a nice little showing.
Good final round.
He also had an ace on 16. That was fun.
Yeah.
Or not an ace. Sorry, he sunk the tiger shot basically.
Well, yeah. I know but he put together a nice one there because I saw his name, creeping up the leaderboard from a fantasy standpoint. Of course, I'm watching the middle of the leaderboard as well because that's what we do when we have money on 20 of the 80 guys in the field.
Crab cakes in football. That's what Maryland does.
But I like seeing Thigala pull it back together. I think Sunday a lot of guys saw the opportunity that, hey, we can finally score again after the weather we've had for 2 straight days. So guys took advantage of it. And then someone like Rahm, I think he would have taken advantage of it. He didn't have to, though. Nobody pushed him. He just put it.
I'm not gonna lie. I was rooting for a ball in the water on 12. I was rooting for an OB hook left on 13.
Something to spice it up.
Of course, but when he piped his drive on 13, just like a 360-yard, beautiful boomerang draw. I mean, not that big, but it was a big, booming draw. It kind of put a chill, a little thrill down my leg. Question for you: Champions dinner.
Everyone was shitting on him on Scheffler's dinner.
That's my point. I'm like, what's a guy got to do? No, Phil kind of sit there and just keep into himself. Is it? Yeah. Do we just need to back off? Especially now that he went out and shot 65 on Sunday. Like we said, I think what he did was the socially appropriate thing when you're re-entering an awkward situation and you're kind of the one that made it awkward. You just come in, you be gracious, you're there. He's, the game's bigger than him. And I think what'll happen is maybe next year or the following, he'll start chirping back in. The guy, nobody did anything wrong. We needed a story. Here's some upstart league. I still think Liv's going to die, pun intended, because like Harold Varner III said, man, they're not talking about growing the game. I think this was a power play.
Yeah.
It is part of, like Zach Helfand was talking about, there's the bigger geopolitical scene where Saudi Arabia does want to continue to bolster its reputation around the world.
Sure.
And here's a way they can do it. And these guys are just, it's kind of funny because they took the money and nobody blamed them for it. But we all talked about, there was probably people out there. I really didn't run into anybody who knew about, that's a dumb way to put it. I did not have any conversations with folks that were genuinely upset about this. They'd just be like, I don't know. I don't think I'll watch it. And I don't think anybody else will watch it either. I think it'll run its course. I think this main group of players will leave. Maybe Liv goes on though. Maybe they do keep snagging some of these rogue players here. The money starts dropping a little bit, but it's established itself as this team entity that's just going to continue. And maybe people like DJ or Sergio, if they do have equity in these teams, they knew that too. It's like owning a minor league baseball team. It's not going to be the big league money yet. Maybe someday it will. Who knows? It's developing. So I do like that this is kind of, for me now, the only thing I'm going to talk about Liv is at the majors, because I genuinely don't care about the competitions anymore. They're not going back to Boston, so who cares?
Well, and what I liked is that once the play started at the Masters, nobody was really talking about Liv anymore. Like, obviously, the broadcast wasn't, but I mean, like, just even the people I was around who were watching the Masters,
no, nobody cares.
It was just a non-story because, once again, the Masters rises above everything in golf.
Yeah, and the only place I saw the conversation was online, and that's kind of where it belongs. It was fun to see people chirp back and forth about, well, you got 3 guys in Liv in the top 5. I don't know when Bill Clinton got into the conversation, but you see that, and I want to go, and so like if at the, I mean, that would be a fun bet to have though. Top 5 finishes throughout the year, like putting money on who's, you got 20 spots, who gets more of them.
It wasn't shocking to me that a few Liv guys got into the, especially the guys who did. Brooks has
shocked that Patrick Reed did as well as he did, but he's been playing well.
Yeah, because let's put Liv and PGA aside. Just some of the guys on Liv have fantastic history at the Masters between Brooks and DJ, Phil. I mean, all the guys who read, like, there's multiple winners in there. Plus, there's also just guys who primarily were finishing top 10 before Liv came around, anyways, at the Masters. There's just guys who are. It's one of those courses. You're either good at that course or you're not. It's just how it is.
Horses for courses. All right, last thing about the Masters, and then we'll move on.
Yes.
Slow play. The storyline people are talking about, Patrick Cantlay.
He is such a slow player. I will say that. Him and Xander take forever.
By the way, Sergio back in the day, they used to put the clock on him, man. He'd stand over a ball for like 75 seconds before he hit. It was insane. My response is, what? You're right. Brooks likes to play fast. Patrick Cantlay likes to take his time. Until an official steps in and puts him on the clock, shut the fuck up. Brooks, not everybody likes to fly around the golf course.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the way. I don't notice it when I'm watching golf unless the broadcasters start mentioning it. And then I start to like really watch and see what they're doing. But if no one mentions it on the broadcast, I don't notice that someo's playing slow.
I'll tell you what though, if you're in that production truck and you get 2 people saying, here are the 2 stories we got going, we can cut to Justin Rose, who's got 50 feet for a birdie to maybe go 3 under, or we can show this pissed off image of John Rahm and Brooksy. And, I mean, it is good television. I get that. Yeah. But like people chirping and be like, who's the slowest player on earth? Shut up. Like, change the channel. There's infinite amount of things to watch. Don't come into my kitchen and just bring your stink. Like, I don't care if the television's there, they're going to cut to other things. They're going to show other shots. They're not just going to sit there and sit and like pan on it. And by the way, if you're watching that featured group and that's what you're stuck with, the product you're tuning into. So the whole slow play thing, whatever. Slow
play does matter in the world of golf, but it does not matter at the professional level. I'm sorry. Slow play affects you and me and anybody else out there on local courses.
Wait till we get to the U.S. Open and they're playing like 6-hour rounds. That is
but that's when slow play matters to me. It matters when like people like me are on the golf course, and that's when it gets back down. You're just like, okay, come on, we're out here to have fun, not stand around for 6 hours. But like you said, if I'm tuning in to watch a golf tournament, I know the product I'm tuning into, and if I'm already tuning in to watch golf, well, yeah. But as long as if I already know I'm tuning in to watch golf, this, like I said, the slow play doesn't translate over through the TV. It doesn't matter.
Clip that audio because you paused at the right time. If I know I'm tuning in to watch golf, that big hang there, my wife would be like, "That's how you know you're a loser," because she hates golf. But she loves me, so it's fine.
That's all that matters.
There was one other thing I was going to ask you about. No, I'm over it. No, Patrick Cantlay had the perfect response when he was asked about it. He goes, "Listen, Augusta National is one of those courses you don't get to play all the time. The conditions were awful, and those are really tough greens and spots to hit. So I took my time and picked my spots. Like, and that's why people who want to chirp him for playing slow, I think you're just looking for something to be upset about. There's a lot more to look at in the world than caring about Brooks and John being upset that it took a while. You know, I mean, but I don't fault Brooks for expressing his anger. He likes to play fast. Other people like to play slow. My point is all of us on the outside being like, Patrick can't, that's who you want to get upset with. He's the most vanilla ice cream cone there is. I love me some Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah, he played good, so he can keep doing what he's doing, and he can tell everyone to shove it because it works for him.
All right, so we've squeezed all the juice out of this lemon and next year's lemon. Harbour Town.
Yes, let's get to Harbour Town.
Go. Fine. What did I miss? What I fuck up now?
Before we get to Harbour Town, we do have to get a quick word in from Underdog.
Oh yeah, no, I love Underdog.
And then we're going to dive into Harbour Town, RBC Heritage, all the fun that comes with that because it is another elevated event, and there is more storylines to talk about with that. So stick around. We'll be right back to talk DFS and storylines around the RBC Heritage.
Underdog Fantasy is here to save your post-fantasy football season blues. The easiest place to play and win with the Underdog Fantasy app. Get up to 20 times your money in a single night with our Pick'em contests. Grab some insurance when setting your picks and win even when one pick fails. Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. Sit gingerbread, good girl.
For a second there, I thought the voice for our Underdog commercial was the voice of the My Group feature on the Masters app. I'm sorry, that was the one other thing I completely forgot about that until I just heard that voice right there. That was the one thing, the My Group feature on the Masters app was fantastic. To just cut to every shot of whoever you marked as a favorite. Great. Just watch it on mute though, because if I had to hear that robotic voice one more time saying so-and-so's got a 50-foot putt for a birdie, and then it just stopped, like I couldn't do it. But watching it on mute was perfectly fine.
I'm looking up the history of the tartan jacket because they get that ugly ass plaid jacket.
Yeah. Any good history?
No story, no nothing. There's nothing there. Apparently, for a while, it was a red jacket. Now they do, green jacket, gold jacket. Who gives a shit?
Solid topic to bring up then.
But back to Harbour Town Golf Links. Yes. We are looking at 7,100 yards, par 71. So not that long, but again, it's a Pete Dye design, which is target golf. And I mentioned it earlier, tree line, very tight, narrow spots to hit your drives into. And the greens are not that big either. But I do absolutely love the fact that it goes through the woods and the swamp and over the river and through the hills and then comes out into that beautiful finishing hole on the 18th with the lighthouse right off in the background. Fun fact, we used to go on family vacations down there, and there's this guy named Greg Russell who does like concerts under a big tree. It's kind of romantic. You got to check it out on YouTube. He sings like kids songs and stuff like that. It's fun stuff.
Cool.
That's a deep cut for you. But fun fact, they got POA greens here. So we got that little spin in the off season. They go POA. So I don't know where they are now. I don't know if they would transition back or not, but we got some POA greens going on, I believe. Again,
tell you what they got right now, actually.
Or it's POA curious.
In the last few years, it's always been Bermuda for the tournament.
Okay, so they probably just use it then for the off season, because it is a resort course. I mean, it is a public course. You can get on it, if you get down there. Expensive, but it's there. Yeah. So, given what we know about this Pete Dye design, what are your kind of key three or 4 or 5 or 17. I didn't see what your mixed model looked like when I got into the Fantasy National.
That's right. I made it kind of late
lab.
today because I was just busy with work the last 2 days out in the field. But before I even get into the stats, when it comes to this week, the week after the Masters, one, I'm looking at who really had to grind at the end. We lost Bud there, it looks like. But what I'm looking at, I want to look at who really had to grind at the end because the Masters, we said it earlier in the show, there's a hangover when it comes to the Masters. And that's a real thing. It's such a mental and physical grind. So to come back immediately, turn around to an elevated mandatory event like this, that's a tough call for a lot of guys. So one, and a lot of other people seem to be doing that too. John Rahm will be a fade for me this week coming off the win. It's a big emotional high he was on. Looks like everyone else is also playing that game because he's projected under 10% owned this week at the highest salary. But also some guys who made comments. I'm for one, Jordan Spieth. I don't know if you saw Jordan Spieth. I think the comments were today, coming out and saying how he's exhausted. He had to put so much into. He's been playing so much golf. 8 out of the last 10. 8 out of the last 10 weeks, and they put an extra effort for the Masters every week. So he said coming into this week, he's going to have to reevaluate his schedule and figure out how to rebalance it. Yeah, no. So look, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with.
For those of you listening on the podcast later, I was playing the world's smallest violin, and I was playing the saddest song for Jordan Spieth.
That's why you couldn't hear it. But when it comes to picking a guy for DFS, if that's his mindset going into this week, I'm tired, I need to reevaluate my schedule, I'm not putting money on him to do anything. Even if he does rate out, well, he rates out number 12 in my model for this week, and he's got low ownership around 10%. I'm still going to fade him because it seems like he's checked out before we even arrived there.
Two things on that. First of all, Rory withdrew. Try saying that fucking 50 times.
His second elevated event he's withdrawn from this year.
And I am curious to hear if there's any fallout, or I'd love to find out if there's if they have, like, what are the limits? What are the penalties? Is it monetary? Because when you got that kind of money, who gives a shit? It's like, all right, what's it going to cost me?
About the what's it called, the player
impact plan,
the player impact program. They've already talked about how he might lose out on some money from that. So I don't know if this in the contracts there's something written into these elevated events to where they have to go to a certain number of them to be eligible or something. I don't know.
Whatever. He doesn't care, because I'm not saying he doesn't care. I'm saying, like, he's probably, he knows he was in the room when it all got decided. So he knows how many he can miss and all that kind of stuff, what the penalties are for. I'm not knocking him for that. What I'm saying to Jordan is then, like, you all wanted to defend the game. You all wanted this, wanted that. This is what comes with it.
So you got to step up and play it.
When NBA players started complaining about having to play back-to-back nights, and I'm like, "Are you serious? Didn't they play
they don't already take like 40 games off a year if they know they're going to make the playoffs just because they rest?"
You want to shit on Draymond Green with me for a minute? No, I'm just kidding. No, to that end, I agree. If somebody's mindset is like that, fade them hard. This is an elevated event, but I don't think everybody's going to be thinking like that. I think this is going to be a good week for somebody like Patrick. By the way, somebody out there, there's more money for the winner this week than Augusta. And I didn't even want to go down the keyboard warrior route, explaining the idea of there's only 68 players and then 50 make the cut. And if you adjust for inflation, ipso facto.
Yeah, people forget this was one of the smallest Masters fields in a while.
Right.
There was only, I think, 88, and then once you had, Kevin Na and Will Zalatoris and Woods withdraw. I mean, I know Woods was after the cut, but still, you're down to 85 guys there at that point.
Yeah, I mean, irrelevant. My point,
yeah,
because also, I mean, it comes a lot more than the $200,000 that you're also guaranteed for life to go every other Masters.
Yes.
Stop your bitching. You got your money. You got the scenario. You knew this was coming. By the way, it's not going to be like this next year. Don't. I got to reevaluate my schedule. You're forgetting the variable that I talked about earlier. This weather fucked everything up. Like, John Rahm. Really, if you Google the videos of John Rahm squatting, or not squat. Yeah, I think it's like deadlifting 350 and just sitting there, just doing, just just tossing it around. These guys are fit. Brooks Koepka is a freaking linebacker.
Yeah.
So I mean, and they were just cranking, peanut butter and banana sandwiches down the fairway. And
it's not like during a weather delay, these guys are at the bar ripping cigars and throwing back shots. No, these guys are trying to stay moving.
Now, if that's taken out of context, if Jordan's not actually, but it sounds like if he's saying I got to reevaluate my schedule.
No, I almost quoted that line exactly about
you just
reevaluating a schedule.
Yeah, don't overreact and quit being a little baby.
But those are the guys I'm gonna stay away from this week. The other guys, stats aside, before we get into the stats that I'm gonna target this week, are guys who didn't get invited to the Masters. Guys who feel like they were on the edge of getting the invitation, didn't get it, they didn't earn it, fair enough, but might be trying to prove something that they could have been there and they could have competed, i.e. Ricky Fowler. I mean, someone like that, like he's been hot. He wanted to be there so badly. He doesn't get to be there. And it's an elevated event where it's a good tournament field. Someone like that might show up this week and just say, I'm going to go out there and try to absolutely destroy, because I need to prove. I feel like I need to prove to myself and to everyone else that I could have been there and could have been in contention last week.
I subscribe to the chip on the shoulder chip on the shoulder theory.
Barcelona.
Been a long Barcelona. Patrick Cantlay or Victor Hovland, or there was one other person I just saw that I was going by. Oh, or Sam Burns. Victor Hovland, or Patrick Cantlay is going to win this week because they fall in that category of, I don't think that they're hungover or lack of motivation or anything like that. I don't know if Jordan's going to wake up on Thursday and go play golf and his instincts will kick in and everything like that.
Sure.
He just knows that what he knows what Monday morning is going to feel like this upcoming week. And that's, I think, what he's projecting.
Yeah, good. Be like be like every other one of us going into a hard work week. And once you get to turn that corner of the weekend and get into a nice relaxing week, enjoy it. Relax, get there, but you got to get there first.
God, us giving blue collar tips to pro golfers, that should be a feed. Blue collar tips to pro golfers. So let's do this then. I had to cut out. I had some audio difficulties. You sounded horrible, and I knew it wasn't you. I knew it was just something weird going on with my headphones.
So I hope I don't still sound horrible.
You look beautiful, especially in that Acorn Hills blue. But what were your key stats real quick?
So my key stats are going to be putting and approaches have been mainstays all year. They're going to stay there. Well. We're going there. I've been back and forth and wanting to use greens in regulation or strokes gained short game, but I went with short game. So I'm going short game, and here's my reason. You said it earlier in your kind of quick breakdown of what this course looks like from afar. There's smaller greens, but with smaller greens, you're going to get a lot of guys who just barely miss the green. It's going to bring some chip shots into play because the smaller greens, some hole outs. You're going to have those really short kind of 20 to 40 yard chips, pitches, whatever you want to call them, come into play. I want guys who are going to be able to stick it close, save par, or maybe even knock it down for birdie and get up and down. So short games in there. And then when I go to my course layout or my hole layouts, par 4 is 400 to 450 and proximity 175 to 200, because those are just the dorkiest stats you can have, and I love to throw them in there every week.
No, when you're talking about it, I keep going back to my favorite phrase, a Pete Dye course. It's target golf, so you find where the landing zones are and you go from there. So if Jordan Spieth is hitting the fairway, he's going to be dangerous because, like what you just described, nobody's more dangerous than he is with a wedge in his hand.
So he can't hit a fairway for the life of him right now. So, which
is funny you mentioned that, because my key three are approach and putting as well. You have to be putting yourself in position to score and scoring, but off the tee, strokes gained off the tee. Who's doing it well? Who's putting themselves in position? And I know there's other ways to measure that, but I'm choosing these strokes gained off the tee, and who's actually not just putting themselves in position, but who's using their tee shot as an actual weapon, a la Rory. Rip. But when I crank those together, I look at the top of my my model, and I mean, there's some diversity in there in pricing, and because my boy Akshay is in the field, I'm gonna play him. He's I do think he's one of those kids who's going to catch lightning in a bottle, and I think he's like 6,800. I don't even know where he ranks out in my model.
6,800, 2.4% projected ownership.
I mean, he's 28th in my. Oh wait, no, that's Sepp Straka. He's 117th in my model.
Yeah, he's 60th in my model. So if you would like to use my model for him to justify playing him, you can use mine if you'd like.
I can tell you what you can do with your model. He's going to give me that 6,800, that forced value because I'm going with a hunch there or just kind of a fanboy attitude. But that 6,800 is going to free up some cash up top. And I don't think I'm going to pay up for John Rahm. Duh, we already established that.
Yeah.
And Patrick Cantlay, I really, really like. But I do think Max Homa has not been playing great, in my opinion, compared to expectations. And I'm not on board with Tony Finau, that's the top of my model. So I can scroll down a little bit. And guess who shows up? Keegan Bradley pops up. Victor Hovland's obviously I'm hot on him. So let's take this from the top and let's go in our 10K and above and let's see. It's not do you like anybody? It's you got to pick one. Who are you picking out of this 10K and above range?
So for me, I'm picking Scotty out of these guys. Like I said, Fade and Rahm because the hangover, and Spieth because of his comments. I like Cantlay, but everyone else
you're holding Spieth's feet to the fire. He's like the nicest guy.
I like Cantlay this week. He's been playing great, and he really rates out well here. He will be chalky, so I might have some lineups where I play him, but he'll be eating chalk. So my best bang for my buck, both performance, price, and leverage, would be Scotty Scheffler at 11,000 at around 13-14% projected.
I want you to. What did you just say? At performance, what price and projection?
I don't even remember how I said it.
Whatever it was, we got to roll the tape back. You got to get that tattooed on your forehead.
On my forehead.
or we'll put it on a.
No, it would be so much cooler if I did it around the neck.
I already tipped my hand. Patrick Cantlay is who I'd back if you, and I still might throw a lineup or two with him, build it around him because I do think he's gonna, he's playing that well. He's been playing well. Colin Morikawa, do not be a sucker. He is the ball striker of all ball strikers. But this is the kiss of death, right? When Bud tells you a lock, then just go ahead and do the opposite. And but I just don't. 10, if he was 9-9,
your brain is trying to talk you back into playing him, and you're fighting back. That's what that pause there was.
That's exactly what happened. It's kind of like a gag reflex. My logic was telling my heart to shut the fuck up. But no, Patrick Cantlay is who I'm backing in the 10K and above. In the 9K range, Victor Hovland all day. I don't hate Cam Young. I don't hate Tony Finau. I don't hate Xander Schauffele. And Max Homa, I'd fade. I think that's my only fade in there. But Victor Hovland, I'd lock in on him the way he was playing. He was, leading after one, still finished strong. Look for the Norwegianer.
Yeah, Max Homa is one of those where he does rate. I mean, he rates out second in my model this week, but he's one of those where I'm going to look past the numbers on him because I do agree with you that it feels like he's entering this a little bit of a downturn here. And struggling to meet expectations. And he only played here once in 2020. He finished T41, but his game has been different since then, so I'm not really going to take that into account fully. But I'm just not sure he's going to return value at 9,100. I do agree I'd rather play a Victor Hovland at 98 or for me, either a Xander or a Tony down there at the lower 9K range. And if I was between those two, I'd probably go Xander. At 9,300 at around 10% ownership.
X gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
8K range is pretty sexy and it's meaty and it's saucy. You can really do some good lineups in this 8K range.
We might have. So you said it earlier in the show. So I want to see if you one, remember you said it, or two, still agree with this, because we might actually agree on who we think is going to win this tournament this week for the first time ever. He's my pick to win as well.
Yeah, and he's playing phenomenal. He ranks 42nd in my model, shows you what I know.
He's 21st in mine.
Yeah, it's just a gut. I mean, it's just a gut feeling where it's like,
agreed.
He won the match play. He did show his face around Augusta.
So then that's the thing. When weather wasn't involved, he looked fantastic at Augusta. He did more than show his face. He looked like a top 10 player.
I do like that about golf, where in other sports, like in football, sometimes they talk about a sloppy field and some weather will neutralize good play. In
Yeah,
golf, it almost felt like it elevated. You had to be even better. I do get that there's guys who are just naturally better, and I don't know if like
sure.
Spain's very rainy, even though he played a lot of his
I'm not
golf over
sure
here
either.
growing up. But the rest of that AK field, Sungjae never. I have a rule. I don't play him a lot, but I will never bet against Sungjae M
Sure.
because anytime I do, I feel like he just sneaks up and bites me in the ass. Tom Kim has been the story. I mean, he won already this year, and people forget about that. Matty Fitzpatrick is just
Mhm.
Matty Fitzpatrick. He is elite. He's a great ball striker. I don't know if he's on the upswing or downswing. Is he putting like shit? No, his
He's
approaches, his iron game is just
yeah, his iron
horrific.
game has started to really falter here. His putting's actually been pretty good.
And then the British
Yeah.
contingent, or don't at me if I got that wrong. Oh, it's Irish too. Oof. The Shane Tyrrell and Tommy
Oh
team
god, yeah,
there.
that's Irish
It,
Shane.
that's well, I think he is Irish, not Northern Irish.
Yeah, Shane's Irish, yeah.
Uh, but I mean, I could build some lineups around those three right there. And then I
Sure.
mentioned Thigala earlier. I think Thigala at 8K is
I'll play
the way he's been playing and trending. I think you're dumb not to put him in a lineup or two.
I'm gonna
But
play him this
I
week
still
because
think out of that 8K range, Sam Burns is
so I
Sam Burns.
agree.
I'm shocked he's in the 8K range.
Sam Burns is the guy that I'm all over in this range. So I
8K
will be
range.
playing I said this range. I wasn't being specific.
No, I
But
was
8K
just
range.
I had said it like 5 times in one sentence, and it bothered me.
Oh, I see.
I had to
Okay,
get it out.
okay.
It was like a sneeze. I had to get one more in.
But yeah, Sahith, I will be playing a fair share of Sahith because, like you said, 8K feels even too low for how well he's playing right now. He should be able to beat that or meet that value, I should say. Also, at less than 6% ownership too. He's made this is let's talk about a stat here with him that I don't think a lot of people realize. The fact that he's 8K and he has made 26 of 28 cuts this year, like, that's impressive. Sure, he hasn't won, and on come Sunday at many of these tournaments, he hasn't necessarily been in real contention. Even though his finishes will say that he was. I think some of these finishes were late round pushes that he wasn't really gonna have an actual shot at winning, but he at least made one last push to get to the top 10. But still, for 5.4% ownership at 8K, he should easily meet value. So I love a Sahith and Sam Burns play out of here. That should give you plenty of room to maneuver around the 10 and 9K range. And then we go into the 7K, and you mentioned Keegan. I'm glad because I like Keegan again this week too. I liked him last week. He finished T23. He hasn't played here in tournament since 2017, so that's interesting. But Keegan's iron play has been pretty damn good. Top 40 and everything for when it comes to approach and these proximities and the par fours of that length. His putting has been the one thing that's been his worst, but even that's been middle of the field. So Keegan Bradley's someone at 7,900, also under 6% ownership projected. I really like Keegan Bradley right at the top of the 7K range.
Keegs. I'm back on the Keegs train. Like I said, big New England guy, big Keegs guy. I'm born again Keegan is what I like to say. I would throw some love to Keegan Bradley, wherever the hell he's living.
Keegan Bradley, yes.
Where is yeah, right there. I had him highlighted, top of the 7.
Yeah, he's right at the top. He's 7,900.
I haven't slept much these last couple nights.
I haven't either, so I'm here for it.
Are you here for me? That's nice. I appreciate it.
I did say that. I didn't mean to be that sentimental right there with you, but it did come out that way, and I don't regret it. So
don't regret it. No regrets. I like what you said earlier. I mean, I could throw some love behind Ricky Fowler. There's a ton of good names, and because it is an invitational or not invitational or whatever, it's an elevated event.
Elevated,
invitational.
Yeah.
Both two things can be true at the same time. I mean,
Yes.
Chris Kirk at 7,500, having won a couple weeks ago, and we're both big on Chris Kirk. Keith Mitchell, same thing.
Chris Kirk finishing top 25 at the Masters too.
Keith Mitchell lives down there. I don't know if he doesn't play out of Harbor Town, but I'm saying I think he's a Sea Island guy. He's definitely a coastal South Georgia or South Carolina guy. Minwoo Lee, after the showing he had at TPC, and I mean, he didn't do great at Augusta, but he almost wins. He almost wins at the Players. JT Poston is built for this course. Actually, I think JT Poston did all right here recently. What's his recent course history? I got it right here. T3 last year, miscut, and then T8. So he's got a habit for top tens. And so I mean,
does.
There's a lot.
And he's been playing well lately too.
there's a lot of fun to be had around there. I do agree with you that if you're gonna build something really though, Keegan is a good play. He's 12th in my model. And if he's clicking this, he is he can play the target golf, and I just don't know what to do. Is there any reason to go down into the 6K range other than to
There
pick up
is.
Akshay? Oh, talk to me, Goose.
There is, but before, one more guy I do think deserves
Okay.
mentioning in the 7K range is Wyndham Clark. He's
Why?
fifth
I've
at
just
the
gotten
best.
burnt
So,
on him a couple too many times.
I know, but Clark hasn't missed a cut in at least his last 5, and that includes the Genesis, the Arnold Palmer, the players, and the Valspar. Sure, his last tournament was the Punta Cana because he wasn't invited to
Punta Cana.
what's it called that week. But his last 2 finishes are 5th place and 6th place at Valspar and Punta Cana, respectively. He hasn't missed the cut here in 4 straight years. And he's playing pretty well. He's made 24 of 29 cuts this year. He's under 10% ownership. And at 7,600, look, he's top 10 in strokes gained approach.
He ranks 16th in my model. I mean,
so it's not out of the realm of possibility for you too. And just scroll past his name, I forgot about one of my biggest surprises of the Masters. Real fast to step back for a second, Gary Woodland. What the where did that come from? Because
he's been in witness protection. His case was finally settled.
He ranks 105 in my model this week, so I'm not touching him this week. But that's my point exactly. Where the hell did that come from this past week? So kudos to him for having some TV time again.
I think we forget that Jason Duffner once won a major.
I know that's
so
true.
Not everybody who wins a major is. I mean, Danny Willett won the Masters. It's like not to knock those guys, all due respect, right?
But when you look at their career as a whole, that's what we're talking. In the
yeah, we'll see. Gary Woodland. The rest is still unwritten with Gary.
Yes. And then before once again, before the 6K range, I've completely forgot how much I loved 4 guys at the bottom of the 7K range, by the way.
Well, tell me all about them.
Sam Ryder ranks 5th in my model, under 4% projected ownership, 7,200. 3 straight made cuts. Has an off and on history here, but he's been playing well of recent, so I'm going to follow his form. Maverick McNeely, under 5% ownership.
I like that. That guy's going to pop soon. First of all, you got a name for success.
And this is a course that he feels comfortable with. 21, he's got a T4 last year, T26. So this course seems to be right up his alley. Denny McCarthy, 7,200 at just under 8% projected ownership.
Fuck that guy. He's another one. He's another Wyndham Clark in my book. I just get burnt every time I play.
No, that is perfectly fine. And then you mentioned him earlier. Maybe, yes, it was by mistake, but Sepp Straka, 7,200, less than 6% ownership. He's got a decent history here, finishing T3rd last year. And he's been playing all right this year. Like he's been a little bit up and down, but as a whole, he's been at least making cuts. He's just not really hitting that top end. But at 7,200, you want a cut maker in like a top 35 finish. So Sepp Straka could deliver that to you.
There's a lot of people with love for Corey Connors out there this week, especially because, again, I go back to the whole ball striking Pete Dye thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want any of that cheese. I don't trust the Canadian.
I don't think a lot of people trust Corey Connors right now after the Masters this week.
But still,
I think with the way and by that I just mean from the degenerate standpoint, from the way he came.
Oh, that's right. Y'all were getting pissed in the chat for a couple.
From the way. Well, I wasn't. But from the way he came out. From the way he came out and started on that Masters, I think a lot of people live bet him to finish top 5, top 10, win, whatever. And then he just collapsed. And yeah, the weather was part of it, but he just kind of collapsed. Yeah.
Although when one of your PGA Tour wins is from a Monday qualifier, that's a pretty badass story. I mean, just saying.
It is pretty cool.
So Ben Griffin pops up in my 6K range. So if you said okay, I was about to say.
I'm sorry, not Ben Griffin. You continue on Ben Griffin. Sorry.
Okay, I'm done with Ben Griffin. He pops in my 6K range. It was somewhere earlier this year, and I can't remember where it was, but he floated around the top of the leaderboard a couple weeks in a row until he got on my radar. Thank you.
Arnold Palmer finished T14 at.
And it's not just that; it's also the buzz around it. Like when people start saying, like, "No, it's this kid's going to be around. He'll be a name. Keep an eye on him." I like to think that I'm going to be way outside the box, but I'm not. Mr. Dark Horse, if I put a
Mhm.
Ben Griffin, Akshay lineup out there, that frees up a lot of capital up top to snag another 3 of those 8K guys,
Sure.
and then maybe take a flyer on Cantlay. Like I'm not against playing him just because he's in the 10K range. I mean, I'm kind of like don't want to pay for the valet service kind of guy. Like I'll park my own damn car. I'm not taking a 10K guy, even though I really like I'm big on him.
Yeah.
But Ben Griffin is somebody else who in that sub 7K, looking for value, looking for leverage. I don't even know what his ownership is.
Ben Griffin
5%. I
there you
mean,
go.
still anything over like 3 when you're paying 6K, it's like, is it really worth it? Yes, of course it is. Anything in the single digits is worth it. It's leverage. I learned that from you. So what do you like in that 6K leverage?
So there's only
6K
one guy in the 6K range that I'm finding it one necessary, because like I said,
JJ Spawn.
As you saw, I love a lot of guys in the 7K range. So that for a lot of my lineup constructions, I'm not really going to need to dip into the 6K range. But if I do want to go a top heavy lineup, one guy that I would take a shot on to just make the cut, and that's all I'd be looking for him to do, is Peter Malnati.
I like Peter
At
Malnati.
6,400. He's been having a rough year. Let's just call it like it is. He's been missing cuts a lot of recent, but he may have turned a corner at Valero. He finished T22. And what I like is his course history here. He's only missed the cut here once in the last 5 years. Most of them he's finishing just inside like the top 50, top 60. He did have a T16 in 2019, but he's under 1% owned, 6,400. He's top 10 in both putting and short game. He feels like he's a guy that can at least make the cut this week. And at that price and at that ownership level, that's all I'd want him to do.
Did you ever see A Time to Kill?
I read the book, never watched the movie.
I read the book. All right. Well, then
I'm usually a movie watcher over. I just never got around to seeing the movie.
So Judge Omar Noose is played by Patrick McGoohan. And in one of the key, I hate that I have to bring Kevin Spacey into this. One of the key figures in the film is named Rufus Buckley. Yeah. And he always, the way that Omar Noose and his Southern twang talks about Mr. Buckley, I can't get that sound out of my head. But another person in that 6K range who seems to be a hot name popping up on a lot of these PGAtour.com or any of those expert picks, where they say, here's 7 to watch, here are my finalists, here's my winner, is Hayden Buckley. And so that's another one. I get, again, when it's an invitational, you're going to always see names up and down the leaderboard.
Sure.
Although I might just have some fun. I think I saw somewhere that Davis Love III is like plus 250,000 to win. Like, why not drop $10 on him? I mean, I understand you get more joy out of it in other ways, but the potential payoff couldn't be any better, right?
Yeah.
But Mr. Buckley, give him a look, and I don't think his ownership is actually that big.
No, I think I just looked. It was under. I think it was under 3% on.
Yeah, it's 2%. So there you go. I mean, there's some names for you in that 6K range, and if you roll it back, you can play them for your friends.
There we go.
I got to tell you, I'm actually excited for golf again this week. I think major season kicked it off, and we were going to do our top 10 golfers, but we'll do that next week. We will rank our top 10 in the world. But for me, I want to know from you: is it recency bias, or is Augusta Nationals, the Masters, your number one? And then who comes after that? For me, it's definitely the Masters, U.S. Open, Open Championship, PGA.
Yeah, that's pretty much the order it is for me too.
No, thanks for bringing the controversy, and thanks. You know what? And thanks for being there for me.
Yes, Mr. Mallard is there for Bud.
I can always rely on you to be there for me and bring the bang every week.
I know.
Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. If you're still listening, click subscribe on whatever device and or platform. Ring the bell. Check in with us every week here.
Yes.
And if you miss it, just subscribe on the podcast and then listen to it, whether it's before you're betting, during the tournament, or on Sunday to find out how smart or dumb we actually are.
Yeah,
and I'd stay away from Patrick Cantlay if I were you. If I love him this much, he's bound to miss the cut.
And you should keep it right here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation YouTube channel. Plus Money Golf will be joining us, I believe, at 10:30 tonight. So stick around for them.
They'll make
bring
you smarter.
all the other ways you can make money on this tournament this week other than DFS. So give them a listen, give them a watch, however you choose to bring it in. Just make sure you stick around here at Fantasy Sports Corporation and drop that subscription here as well. But as always, we love you guys. Thank you for joining us for another Tuesday here on Divots and Pivots. And we will catch you next week right here, same place, 8 o'clock.